Okay. Hi, everybody. It's also great to come to convention and get to have a great lunch with 700 of my best friends. This is year 16 for me, and it still feels like a family reunion every time I get here. So tonight, everybody, free drinks in Pat's room tonight. Come on up. We're going to tell you a little bit about what we specialize in. I guess I've become a specialist by now. And you know that I'm going to give kudos to my work partner, Paul Mulvaney, and I run the KOA newsroom. Hopefully you've all liked what you've seen on the new eCamp so far. So again, we're going to keep developing that. It was fun to launch that, and we really appreciate your feedback. Public relations at KOA has really developed a lot in the last few years. We go through a lot of effort. It's steady pressure that we do all the time to make sure that we're always got KOA's name, brand top of mind. And just to give you an idea of how far we've come in just the last year, PR media placements for KOA up 65% in 1 year. Now that number at 334 may seem kind of small, but you got to remember that's our very top market. That's the CBS, the USA Today, the New York Times. We're playing at that sort of a level. And that accounts for almost 180% of our media impressions. That's top-tier national media placements. And now you're going to say, well, what's a media impression, Mike? What does that count for? The best analogy I could think of is your billboards. Just about everybody out there has a billboard. And where do you want to put a billboard? You want to put it in a high-traffic area. So we want to find the media outlets like CBS that have millions and millions and millions of viewers. And every time that somebody has an opportunity to see your message, that's an impression. So that's the best way I could say that. You want to put it on the busy highway like those big media placements so that a lot of people are seeing it go by. So we'll talk a little bit more about impressions later on. What's driving these impressions? The North American Camper Report. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look on eCamp and keep up with this. This is our second year we've done the North American Camper Report. And we did this because nobody in our business was doing it. If they were doing it, they were doing it poorly. The best data we had out there was probably a report that was coming out with a couple hundred people interviewed as they were leaving a campground. Well, the North American Camper Report, we scientifically surveyed almost 3,000 folks throughout North America about their camping habits, what drove their habits, what they wanted to see in camping. And the point of this was to become the source for the industry. So no matter where the media was going, we were the ones that had the data. We became the go-to source for all of that. And the last year was interesting because we concentrated on where the new camper was coming from. And what bubbled out of the data was millennials and minorities, especially Hispanics. We're starting to find our campgrounds and find it a fun way to go. Just a couple of examples of some of the stuff that came out of the North American Camper Report. This is a story that was in USA Today, and the reporter, Natalie, came to our launch event for the North American Camper Report in San Francisco, and then she joined us with three of her friends at the San Francisco North Petaluma KOA, and thanks Woody and Pauline for hosting us there, and we had a great time, and obviously they had a great time too. She wrote this story. It appeared in the print edition in June, and also online. It's still out there. You can go take a look. And you'll see the little red circled area there. That's where Toby was quoted. Our report was quoted as far as the millennial habits. And she talked about how it was a great way for millennials and emerging campers that had never tried it before, how far camping has come at KOA. So it was a great story for us. This New York Times story that ran in September, just a couple of months ago, another great story. And what was so great about it was, this is a story about family travel, about making the family road trip. Originally, they weren't even going to include camping in this, but when they got wind of our report, they decided to include us. And then we showed them this beautiful picture from Newburgh, and they had to have that too. So this ran in the New York Times, print and online, featuring that, and we became, again, the source for the camping information. It was exactly what we're after. Los Angeles Times, this reporter, Hugo Martin, is well known to us on the West Coast. I think he stayed at San Francisco, and San Diego, and Ventura. And when he saw our report, he said, well, I want to do a story on minority and hiking and camping. And so he stayed with us again and dove deep into our report, and again did this great thing out on the entire West Coast out of LA market, and it's also a news service. So we got plenty of play on that. Again, broad outdoor topic, just what millennials and what minorities were doing in the outdoors, and we became the source of information for that. This July, CBS Morning Show, again, our chief agency, Allison and Partners, who are making the phone calls, making the contacts, making the connections with the media, got a hold of CBS and told them about our report, and they decided they wanted to do a segment on it. And so we had a tape segment with Toby from the KOA, and Billings KOA, as the source part, and then they did a story about what millennials were doing, and of course they had to get cute with that was intense part. And it was all about the millennial habit of getting into camping, what millennials were looking for. And we became the source for the industry again. Another bubble down effect that's really nice is that this publication, Westways, which is the main publication for AAA, they watch all this go by. They see the top tier media, the CBSs of the world run these pieces, and they think they're missing something. So they decided, they approached us and said, we're going to do a story to our market, which is car people, about how to go camping when they're traveling. And so they came to us, went through our data, and the nice part about it is it narrows down the market again so that we know we're talking to people that are traveling in their cars, perfect ones for us, and we became the source work for that. Just some of the other titles and brands that we were appearing in this year, some really, really top-tier stuff. And this is all to credit Allison and Partners. This is our agency out of San Diego, California. These people are constantly on the phone and on email. This is PR is a relationship business. They're constantly working to get our name out there and keep us front and center at all times. We're already making use of some of what we learned about the Hispanic market. Again, it's an unusual market in that it serves people of Puerto Rican origin, Cuban origin, Mexican origin. Doesn't matter. They all share that same media, the Telemundos, the Hoys of the world. So they're very easy to talk to because they've got a media that they already follow in the Spanish language. And this is Toby being interviewed in Los Angeles at our event by Telemundo. And it's very, very disconcerting when you see Toby being interviewed and it being translated back into Spanish. So it's a little bit odd. But we've got, in just a brief time this summer, we got 12 major media placements on the Hispanic media market, which accounted for almost 1.5 million of those impressions again, putting ourselves on the busy highway of information. We also go to a Hispanicized event, just before I move on this one, which is held every year in Miami, where just about everything Hispanic happens. It's the media, it's the influencers, it's the bloggers. So you're going to see a lot more of the Hispanic media that we're going to be sending to your campgrounds to experience camping so that they can tell all of their followers about it. Now you might say, Mike, what's in it for us? Because this is great. You're up on the major markets. You're spending a lot of time and energy up there. But what can you do for us? Well, between Polly and I and our efforts with the help of Allison, we put out 20,000 local news releases into your markets every year. You probably don't know this, but we've got databases on every one of our campgrounds. I know who your newspapers are, your radio stations, your TV stations. I know who your city editors are, who your outdoor writers are in your markets, who your bloggers are. So I've got a database built on every one of you. So now I'm sitting there waiting for you to let me know what's going on in your campgrounds. Do you have a special event coming up? Do you have a new feature that you've added this spring? We want to know that so we can prepare the local press releases for you. We do 4 major projects a year, including opening for the season. So when everybody opens up for the spring season, we let everybody in your market know that. So we're constantly putting out these local press releases. But in season, I probably get 4 to 5 a week. I wish there was 10 times that. I wish I had a problem with that. So please go on to eCamp and call up our local press release request tool. It's a little survey that you fill out, and you just tell me what's going on, when it's going on. You can attach a photograph if it makes sense. You email it to me, and we turn it around in about 48 hours max and get it back out to your local market. And that's the way that I get to bring campers directly to your park. And that's the goal here. Now, one of the things that we do is in PR is it's called earned media, because I have to have an agency like Allison. I have to make a lot of phone calls. I have to convince the media that it's in their best interest to do stories about camping, because it's a fascinating story, and you guys all have fascinating stories to tell. So that's earned media. The other side of marketing is paid media, and that's the advertising, that's the development of the brand story that we want to tell in depth, and that's Whitney Hepp's job. So I'm going to turn this over to Whitney and let her go.
Yes, it's my job to spend money. No. So Mike's right. So PR has to do with earned media, and advertising is about paid media, paying to put the KOA brand in front of our consumers, but the right consumers. And this year, we did a lot of research to understand who is the KOA camper. And we developed 9 personas. 3 of them were given top priority. The KOA MVP, 55 plus, camps an average of 30 nights per year, 97% on your campgrounds. The low engaged RVer, 55 plus, 30 nights a year, 19% with KOA. And the weekender, 40 to 54, has a family, often stays in cabins, and takes 1 camping trip with KOA a year. And we put goals around them. Make the MVP our advocate and our ambassador. Make the low engaged RVer have KOA be their #1 choice. And the weekender, get them to stay just 1 more time. And it's understanding the consumer that helps us target them. And we do that through our national advertising campaign, What's Behind the Yellow Sign, which has lots of different tactics, one of them being television. We ran commercials in May and June across 20 networks in the US and Canada. Plus, in Quebec, we did one en français. Woo! Finally. No. So let's take a look at the one for the afternoon and show us what we could be doing right now behind your yellow sign.
What's happening now behind the yellow sign? Spend your afternoon like this, camping at KOA.
I mean, if I wasn't here, I'd be there. I mean, definitely. And it's commercials like that led our consumers to our What's Behind the Sign landing page, that engaged consumers, let them view the commercials and interact with other campers' photos of your campgrounds, so they could go to Nashville at night or bury KOA in the morning. And it also showed campers about our products, our promotions, and our accommodation types. Our TV commercial had 64 million impressions. That's 64 million eyeballs. 64 million people that watched it on their couches at home, up 12.4% over last year. As we look to 2017, we are again going to use the same day-parted commercials. Our landing page will be enhanced to engage consumers with technology like cinemagraphs that bring still photography to life. As you can see, part of the image is frozen, while the other part of the image moves. And those of you that follow me on Instagram, yes, that is my dog. Thanks, Mike. That's not the only tactic of What's Behind the Yellow Sign. We also do banner ads across companies' websites on the internet, showing people what they're missing out at your campground. These banner ads had 78 million impressions this year, up 113% over last year. That's huge growth, which correlated to $3.5 million in registration revenue, up 119% over last year. That's huge. Imagine me growing 119% in 1 year. That's pretty big. As we look forward, we want to expand that timeline of those banner ads because they're so successful. And we'll also be introducing new technologies like dynamic display, which is one creative ad that can send different messages to who the consumer is. So if we know that a consumer has already looked at a California campground on KOA.com, we can serve them an ad that brings them back to California or Ohio. Because when we can target at that level, we will see an increase of 47% in effectiveness, and our cost on creation and production will go down. We'll also be introducing in-image display advertising, where we crawl the internet looking for relevant images online, like a fire or an RV, and serve up a banner ad on top of it. Pretty creepy, huh? Still, what's behind the yellow sign has more tactics inside of it as well. We want to make sure that as campers are looking for campgrounds based on certain keywords, that your campgrounds are ending up at the top of the list, either organically or through search ads. This year, we had 7.7 million impressions, which was down 7%. It's great that it's down because our revenue increased by 58%, giving us $4.1 million in registration revenue, meaning we're serving less ads to the right people, making sure your dollars are working harder for you. All these tactics lead us back to your campground landing pages, where we understand that our consumer is a visual buyer. We don't like to read. That's why in 2017, we'll be rolling out a photography co-op, where we will reimburse campgrounds who pay for professional photography. Even more, we will have a preferred photography option, where your photos can end up in our national advertising. It's pretty great. Yay! In totality, what's behind the yellow sign made $9.8 million in registration revenue, up 133% this year. So what does that really mean? That means that for every $1 that you put into the 2% ad fund, this one campaign returned $2.20 back to your campground. That's awesome. Because what's behind the yellow sign isn't just about the consumer. It's showing the consumer what's really behind the yellow sign, which is you and your campground. And helping to showcase you and your campground is KOA.com and the mobile app. So now, here's the man behind the mouse, Cole Reinhardt.